Amara was climbing the palm tree again. Her belly was round now, 6 months full of life. But she was still climbing. The village women were watching from their doorways and whispering behind their hands. Amara came to this village only 8 months ago. She had married the love of her life, Kojo, and followed him to his family compound. But 3 months after their wedding, Kojo had disappeared into the thin air. The family said he had died in an accident. They said a tree had fallen on him while he was walking in the forest. They said they had buried him quickly because of the heat. But Amara had never seen his body. She had never seen his grave. She had never seen any proof that her husband was really dead. The morning after they told her about Kojo's death, she had found his favorite shirt hanging on the line. It was still damp from washing. Someone had been wearing it recently. The sleeve still smelled like his skin. But when she asked about the shirt, Kojo's mother had snatched it away from her. You are imagining things, she had said. Grief makes women see things that are not there. Now, Amara was 7 months in this strange village. She was carrying Kojo's baby, and she was still asking questions that no one wanted to answer. Family was feeding her and giving her shelter, but they were treating her like a burden. They were waiting for her to have the baby and then leave. But Amara was not leaving, not until she found out what really happened to her husband. So she was climbing the palm trees every morning. She was climbing higher and higher, looking out over the village and the forest beyond. All the village women said she was crazy. They said pregnant women should never climb trees. They said she was putting her baby in danger. But from the top of the palm tree, Amara could see everything happening. She could see the paths through the forest. She could see the old storehouse behind the main compound. She could see the small huts that were supposed to be empty. And sometimes, when the wind was blowing right, she could hear things, voices, calling out, sounds that did not belong in empty places. One Tuesday morning, while Amara was climbing her usual tree, she saw smoke coming from the old storehouse. The family always said that that building was abandoned. They said it was too old and dangerous to use. But someone was inside. Someone was cooking inside. Someone was definitely living there. When she climbed down from the tree, she walked towards the storehouse. Her heart was beating very fast. Her baby was kicking hard against her ribs. The door was locked, but there was a small window on the side. Amara looked through the dirty glass and saw pots and pans on a fire. She saw a sleeping mat on the floor. She saw clothes hanging on a rope. Men's clothes. A shirt that looked like one Kojo used to wear. What are you doing here? Amara jumped and turned around. An old man was standing behind her. She had never seen him before, but he was looking at her like he knew her very well. I'm sorry, Amara said. I was just looking around. You should not be looking in places that do not concern you, the old man said. But his voice was not angry. It was almost kind, almost sad. You are Kojo's wife, yes? The one who climbs trees. Yes, I am. My name is Kwame. I was your husband's friend. I helped take care of him before he died. Amara felt her heart skip. You were with him when he died? Yes. He talked about you at the end. He was really worried about you. He said you were strong but stubborn. He said you will not stop asking questions. Kwame reached into his pocket and pulled out something wrapped in clothes. He wanted you to have this. It was a small wooden cavern. A bird with spread wings. Kojo had made it for her during their engagement. She had left it in their first house when they moved to his village. How do you have this? Amara asked. Her hands were shaking. This was in our old house, miles away from here. Kwame's eyes were sad but steady. He carried it with him everywhere. Even at the end, he was still holding it. But something was wrong. The carving had fresh scratches on it. Someone had been handling it recently. The wood still smelled like palm oil and sweat. Where exactly did he die? Amara asked. Far from here, deep in the forest. It took us 3 days to find his body. Then, why does this smell like it was just carved? Why are there fresh marks on it? Kwame was quiet for a long time. Then he said, grief makes women see things that are not there. You should rest. You should think about your baby. But as he walked away, Amara noticed something. Kwame's hand were stained with fresh wood shavings, like he had been carving something very recently. That night, Amara could not sleep. She was lying on her mat, listening to the sound of the compound. The family was snoring. The chickens were quiet. But somewhere in the distance, she could hear something else. Someone was crying. It was a man's voice, low and broken, coming from the direction of the old storehouse. Amara sat up carefully. Her belly was heavy now, and moving was getting harder, but she had to know what was making that sound. She put on her wrapper and walked quietly. Outside, the moon was bright enough to see the path. She followed the sound towards the storehouse. The crying was getting louder. It was definitely a man, and he was saying something over and over. Words she could not quite understand. When she got close to the storehouse, the crying stopped. Everything was silent. Amara waited. Her heart was pounding. Her baby was moving restlessly inside her. Then she heard footsteps inside the building. Someone was walking around. Someone was definitely living there. She crept closer to the window and looked inside. The fire had died down, but she could see shapes in the dim light. A man was sitting on the floor with his back to her. His shoulders were shaking. He was still crying quietly. The man turned slightly, and Amara saw his profile. Ha! It was Kojo, her husband, whom she thought was alive. Her husband, whom the entire family said he was dead. Her husband was alive. He was sitting in that abandoned storehouse, crying in the dark. Amara almost called out to him, but something held her back. Something made her stop. Why was he there? Why was his family saying he was dead? Why had no one told her he was alive? She watched him for several minutes. He was rocking back and forth. He was holding something in his hand and staring at it. Even in the dim light, she could see that he looked different, thinner. His hair was longer and unkempt. His clothes were dirty. He looked like someone who had been hiding for a long time. Amara went back home. She needed to understand what was going on. The next morning, Amara was climbing her palm tree again. But this time, she was not looking for her husband. She was watching the people who had lied to her. Kojo's mother was carrying food towards the storehouse. His brother was walking in that direction with a water jar. They were taking care of someone. They were bringing supplies to someone who was supposed to be dead. When Kwame appeared at the bottom of her tree, Amara was ready for him. Come down, he called up to her. We need to talk. I am fine up here, Amara said. Please, it is important. Amara climbed down slowly. When she reached the ground, Kwame was looking around nervously. You were walking around last night, he said. That is not safe for a pregnant woman. I could not sleep. You need to be more careful. There are dangerous people in this village. People who do not want outsiders asking too many questions. What kind of question? Question about things that should stay buried. Amara looked directly into his eyes. Is my husband buried, Kwame? The old man was quiet for a long time. Then he said, some people are buried while they are still breathing. Some people are dead while they are still walking around. Death is not always what it seems. What does that mean? It means you should stop climbing trees. It means you should have your baby and go back to your own family. It means some secrets are too dangerous to dig up. But as Kwame walked away, Amara saw something that made her blood run cold. He was carrying a key, a large old key that looked like it belonged to the storehouse door. 2 days later, Amara made her decision. She was going to find out the truth, no matter what it cost her. Amara waited until the middle of the night, when everyone was sleeping. Then she took a small knife from the kitchen and walked to the storehouse. The door was locked, but the window was a little bit loose. Amara was 8 months pregnant now, but she was still small enough to squeeze through the opening. Inside, the storehouse was dark and smelled like unwashed bodies and fear. Amara lit a small candle she had brought with her. What she saw made her legs weak. Kojo was there. Her husband was sitting in the corner, chained to the wall. He was alive, but he looked like a ghost. His eyes were empty. His face was covered with cuts and bruises. He had lost so much weight that his clothes were hanging off his body. When he saw her, he started to cry. "Amara," he whispered, "you came. I knew you would come." She ran to him and touched his face. "What happened to you, Kojo? Why are you here? They all told me you were dead. Why did they tell me that?" "They found out about the lands," Kojo said. His voice was weak and broken. "The land my grandfather left for me. The land with the palm trees. They wanted to sell it, but they could not while I was alive. So they made me dead." "Who? Who did this to you?" "My family," Kwame said. They all agreed. They said it was better for everyone if I disappeared. They said he would go away after the baby was born. They said he would take my child and never come back. Amara was trying to unlock his chains, but the metal was thick and strong. "We have to get you out of here immediately. They will kill us both if they find you here, Amara. You have to go. For my baby. They will say I died trying to escape. They will say you have an accident. You don't know. You don't understand the people we are dealing with. I do not care. I am not leaving you here." But even as she spoke, Amara heard footsteps outside. Someone was coming. The door quickly opened and Kwame walked in. He was not surprised to see Amara there. He was not angry either. He looked almost relieved. "I knew this day would come," he said quietly. "I told them you were too stubborn to give up." "Let him go," Amara said. She was standing in front of Kojo, protecting him with her pregnant body. "I cannot do that. You do not understand what is at stake here. Money? That is what is at stake? You want to steal his land. It is not just about money. It's about survival. This village is dying. The young people are leaving. The old ways are disappearing. That land is worth enough to save us all. By murdering an innocent man? By sacrificing one person for the good of many?" Kojo understand. He has accepted his fate. "I have not accepted anything, no," Kojo said. His voice was getting stronger. "I will never accept what you have done to me," Kwame sighed. "Then you have forced me to make a difficult choice." He pulled out a long knife. The blade was sharp and clean. "You cannot kill a pregnant woman," Amara said. "I know you are not that evil." "I am not evil. I am only being practical. When your baby is born, I will take care of him or her. I will raise him or her as my own grandchild. He will have a good life over my dead body." Yes, that is exactly right. Because it's really happening over your dead body. But as Kwame moved towards her, Amara did something unexpected. She grabbed the chains that were holding her husband and pulled them so hard, the old metal snapped. Kojo was free, even weak and injured. He was still strong enough to fight. He knocked Kwame down and grabbed the knife. "Run!" he told Amara. "Get out of here now. But Amara was not leaving without him. She helped him stand, and together they stumbled towards the window. Behind them, Kwame was getting up. He was shouting for help. Other voices were answering him from across the compound. "The back path," Kojo whispered, "through the palm tree. You know the way." They climbed out of the window and ran into the night. Amara's belly was so heavy and painful, but fear was making her strong. Kojo was leaning on her, but he was keeping up. Behind them, they could hear people shouting, dogs were barking, lights were flickering on in the compound. They reached the palm tree where Amara had spent so many mornings climbing and watching. Now, the tall trees were hiding them from their pursuers. This way, Amara said. She knew this path better than anyone. She had memorized every root and stone from her 3 climbing morning. They ran deeper into the forest. Kojo was getting weaker, but he was still moving. Amara was feeling sharp pains in her belly, but she ignored them. They had to reach the main road. They had to find someone who could help them. After what felt like hours, they saw lights ahead. A small village. People who did not know them. People who might believe their story. 6 months later, Amara was sitting under a mango tree, watching her baby sleep. The child was healthy and beautiful. A girl with Kojo's eyes and Amara's stubborn chin. Kojo was sitting beside them, carving another wooden bed. His hands were steady now, but his eyes still carried shadows. Some kinds of damage never fully healed. They had escaped that night and found help. The police had arrested Kwame and several members of Kojo's family. The land was safe now, registered properly in Kojo's name, but they could never go back to that village. Too much had happened there. Too many people still believed that money was more important than human life, so they had started over in a new place. Kojo was working as a carpenter. Amara was growing a small garden business. They were building a quiet life together. But sometimes, when the wind was blowing through the trees, Amara remembered those mornings when she was climbing palm trees, searching for answers. She remembered the feeling of being watched and mocked by people who knew terrible secrets. She remembered the sound of her husband crying in that dark storehouse and the feeling of almost losing him forever. Now, when their daughter was old enough to work, Amara would teach her to climb trees too, not to search for lost husband, but to see the world from high places, to understand that sometimes you have to rise above the ground to see the truth. And on quiet evening, when Kojo was carving and the baby was sleeping, Amara would tell their daughter the story of the palm tree woman, the pregnant woman who would not stop asking questions, the woman who climbed higher and higher until she found what everyone else was keeping from her. She would tell her daughter that being stubborn is not always a weakness. Sometimes it is the thing that saves your life. Sometimes it is the thing that saves the people you love. But late at night, when everyone else was sleeping, Amara would still wake up listening for sound that should not be there. She would still check the locks on their door. She would still remember that there are people in this world who will choose money over mercy, convenience over truth. She would remember that some villages keep terrible secrets buried in abandoned storehouses. And she would hold her sleeping daughter a little tighter, knowing that the world contains both palm trees that lift you towards the light and dark places where people disappear. The wooden bed that Kojo had carved for her sat on their windowsill now, its wings spread wide, but sometimes when the candlelight flickered across its surface, Amara could still see the fresh scratches that Kwame had made while her husband was chained in that terrible place. Some scars never fade completely. Some memories never let you rest. But some love is strong enough to survive even the darkest places. And sometimes, if you are brave enough to climb high enough, you can see your way home. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to share this story with your family and your friends whom I love to see them. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.